Now I'm going to start off with the pockets. The first one being our slip pocket. I have piece B1 here, and there should be 2 of them. This is going to be the outer shell of my slip pocket, and this is the inner portion. The part of my slip pocket that will be showing is out of canvas, and there's no interfacing or anything on the back. I have it right side up and direction side up as well. In fact, they are right sides together. I'm going to clip it across the top and across the bottom, and then I'm going to sew it using a 1/4 inch seam allowance across the top and the bottom. Now I am going to leave the sides open. Now the presser foot that I am using is a 1/4 inch standard presser foot. So if I let this fabric here right alongside of this presser foot, I know that I'm going to have an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to hold on to my ties in the back, go forward a couple, then go back, and then sew all the way down. I have my stitch length at a 2.5 and my stitch width at a 0. Okay, now I want to turn my slip pocket right side out. Now, I do not want to iron it, but I do want to finger press it. So now I want to top stitch across the top using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now, if you are new to sewing, you could in fact use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's up to you. Start within the fabric and then backspace and then come forward. That eliminates any bunching or anything at the back here when you start. And since this is a top stitch, just take your time. Okay, and so now what I want to do is I want to sew or baste the sides. So we're not doing the bottom portion yet because that gets done when we sew it onto our duffel bag. So now I'm going to sew across here using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. And again, I'm still using a 2.5 stitch length. Okay, now I want to do the same thing to this side over here. Okay, so there's the slip pocket and it's all complete for now. And now I'm going to set it aside until I sew it onto the duffel bag and go on to my next step. Okay, so now I am ready to do the key leash. I have double stick tape and I'm going to put that double stick tape down the center of my fabric. And now I want to fold both edges into the center. Now, if you do not have double stick tape, you could in fact use an iron if you can on your material, or you can finger press it. Now I want to get my lobster clasp and put it in there like that so that the raw side is against the flat side. Then I want to bring them both together at the end and put a clip. Now I want to top stitch along all 3 sides here. Now I don't want to come too close to my hardware, so I'm going to stop right there. And I'm going to pull on my lobster clasp so it's out of the way and it doesn't move down back to get in the way of my needle. Now I've got my needle all the way down into my project and I turned my wheel. Okay, so now when I go forward, there will not be any difficulty in the bobbin being caught. Okay, I had to clean my needle off a little bit because the double stick tape started making my needle sticky. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go ahead and start on the other side, going the other direction. Okay, so there is my key leash all done, and I'm going to go ahead and clean my needle again with the alcohol swab, and then I'll be back to go on to the next step. So now the next thing to do is our front pocket. So I have the top portion and the bottom portion of that pocket. So what I want to do is I want to bring them raw edges together, the top and bottom, and finger press it. And now I want to sew across here using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, just like that. So now I want to do the same thing here. I want to bring my raw edges together, which is the top and the bottom. So here's our top portion and here's the bottom portion of our pocket. Now they are going to go over each other with snaps and snap together right there, okay? So make sure that you have them going the right way. Both of them should be right side up and direction side up. Now in step number 7, she gives you measurements that where you are going to measure in and down from this portion here, in and up from this portion here. So I'm going to go ahead and make those markings and then I will be right back. Okay, so now I have my markings to where I've marked each of these where my snap is going to go. I'll start on this one first. Now, I want to be really careful, get it right where I want it. Now I want to get a little piece of stabilizer. And what this is for is so it will stabilize the snap from falling out. And I want to put freight check in here because I want to make sure that this does not start fraying on me and making the snap fall out. So now I'm going to use 2 of them on this, and then I'll set these aside for the other 2. Okay, so this is right side up. I want to get, first of all, the cap portion, and I want to put it in the back. Okay. So I've got the cap, and I'm going to put it through just like that. Then I'm going to grab one of my stabilizer pieces, open this out, put it in there like that, then close it out. Then I'm going to get one of these ones and put it on the top. Get this. And my cap portion goes on here and my other end goes on the top. So let me hold onto the cap and put it on there. Okay. Okay, so now I want to make sure it's all the way inside of there, and it is. Okay, and that's on there good too, so now I can squeeze it. And so there's that, like that. Now I want to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, and my 2 snaps are on there. And if you have a directional fabric, the side with the caps should be upside down, and the sides with the snaps should be right side up. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to get these, and I want to put like that, going in this direction, right where I want to put my snaps on this way. Now I want to line them up right on each other so that I can check to make sure that the pin portion is going to fit right on top of that snap on both sides. So I'm going to put that portion right there, put a clip. Okay, this portion looks like I need to move one over like a 1/16 of an inch, which makes a difference. Okay. So now I've measured the sides, the height of both sides, and they are both equal. And I know that both of those pins are going to line up right with the snap. So now I know that I am okay to make the hole for my snap. This is going to go on there like this. This is the bottom portion. This is the top portion. This is going to go over the bottom. Okay, so now I want my caps on this side and my snap on the inside. And just like I did the other side, put my stabilizer, put this down. Now I'm going to use this portion. Okay, now I have another one of my pocket lining pieces and my key leash, and I want to just clip it to the top up here, and my lining is right side up, direction side up. Now if your key leash has a direction as well, you want to make sure it's going in the right direction. If it's not, flip it over, okay? But mine's black, so that's fine. And now let me base this to the top using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now my key leash is on my lining. It's right side up, direction side up. Now I want to get the pocket front that we just put the snaps on. The smaller section is on the top, remember. So I want to lay it on top of here, but I want to put right sides together. So that means this has to be right side up, direction side up. This has to be right side up, direction side upside down, because these have to be right sides together. So you see how this is direction side up and this is direction side up as well. Now if we put them on there like this, which makes sense, this is what would happen. When we flipped out our pocket, one would be upside down and one would be right side up. Right sides together, directions correct. Okay, so now I'm ready to baste this all the way around using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now I want to be careful going over this flap here so that it doesn't get distorted. I want to make sure that it is a smooth transition there. Right side up on this side, and then when we unsnap this and you look inside, your picture should be upside down, okay? And actually your key leash should be upside down too. It should be attached to down here, okay? So let me snap this back up. Now we're going to take the remaining piece of our lining and I'm going to put it right sides together. So it should look like this, okay? So when I'm looking at both of these, both should be right sides together and the direction going the right way with each other. So I want to put those two together like that. Take my clips and once again, clip it going all the way around. Okay, so now let me go ahead and sew the top and the bottom. Before I turn this, I want to clip my 4 corners, making sure I do not cut into my stitches. I want to make sure that everything got caught in here, that everything looks good. And it does, okay. Okay, so now I want to flip it here and then top stitch around all 4 edges, closing up the 2 sides and top stitching across the top. Yeah, we're skipping stitches. Now, my machine is skipping stitches because the needle is not clean. So I'm going to go ahead and throw away that needle. And I'm going to get another one that is thicker because I'm going through thicker fabrics. So I'm going to get a 1490. Okay, so there it's completely top stitched. So now our pocket is completely done. When I'm looking at it this way, I should be seeing right side up, direction side up as well, and then the back should go along with that. Then when I open it up, flip it around, let me turn it right side or inside out so you can see it, what I was talking about. And I won't turn this all the way, but you can see now that the direction is going the right way and the back is going the right way as well. And now the key leash is on the top. So now I know that all of my pocket is going in the right way. Okay, so now back up. So now I have added my markings to my slip pocket sides, also my front pocket at the sides, and my panel as well. Okay, now all my markings I put it in chalk so that you could see it really easily. In chalk I can just clean it off afterwards. Okay, now you actually have 3 choices for this back slip pocket. Okay, choice 1 is to make it into a trolley sleeve. Okay, so that it's open and you can put it on a trolley for your luggage. If you are going to do that, you need to finish off this bottom edge before you attach it to here, so that this edge here will be finished off. Now I'm going to use it as a slip pocket, so I'm going to baste along here, top stitch along the bottom, and then baste again up here. Okay, and I want to be on the outside of these lines here because that's where our webbing is going to go. Now, as you can see, both my canvas and my utility fabric is fraying really bad on each side. Now, I'm not worried about it because my webbing is going to go right here on both sides, and so that's not going to be any problem. So now I'm ready for my webbing. Okay, so now I have both pieces of webbing here. Okay, and now I want to put a tag here. So I want to make sure that my tag is on this side of my marking. And so I'm going to just go ahead and pin this. Actually, I'm going to pin it going this way. And then that way, when I come down with my webbing, I'll go ahead and remove that clip. Now I want to put my webbing on the outside of my marking. And so now I want to take this all the way around. Let me move this one out of the way. And I want to bring it down on this side. So now I want to look at this and make sure that there's no twists on this. So now I want to do this the same way as I did that side. And it's a lot easier that since I put the marking on my pocket and my panel, that everything lines up just right. Now in step 14, she gives you a measurement that you're going to measure on both sides of your webbing, okay? And you can actually even put an X right here to give you a guide as to where you are going to sew. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that X so that you can see where I'm sewing because I'm going to be using black thread. Okay, so right there. Good enough. So now I'm going to flip this around. Now I'm going to top stitch this webbing down. I'm going to sew all the way along here to the top marking, across, and then start forming my X and then go down and then do the same thing to this side over here. And I've got to make sure that my label is right where I want it as well. That side is done. So now I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Now I really want to make sure my tag got all the way in there, and it did, so I'm really happy with that. Now I'm going to do the same thing to this one on the other panel. Okay, so now I'm going to start off with basting my two sides. Okay, this is sliding on me. It might slide on you too. So let me do this over again. Let me see. Because this should be down here. So you see how it's sliding on me? Okay, so I went ahead and I unpicked that so that I can line this up again. Now I want to show you something. If you do not want to put pins or double stick tape in your fabric, what you can do is take a couple of clips, put your pocket exactly where you want it, and then take your utility fabric and fold it over, and then place your clips on there like that. Okay, and then you can go ahead and sew it, and as you're sewing it, remove your clips here and then keep going down. Okay, so I'll show you. So now I want to remove a clip. Remove another one. And then remove the last one. Okay. And now on this side I basted a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so now I'm going to leave the bottom portion of this open. So now I'm going to grab my webbing, do the same exact thing that I did on the other side. Now before I sew the last side, I want to put both of these on top of each other. Make sure everything is lining up. Okay, and it is lining up well. And the other thing is, I want to make sure both of these ties are the same size, and they are. So I'm really happy with that. So now I will set this aside again. Set that aside again, and I'll sew up my last side. Now, if for some reason your straps do not match up, then you can make it longer or shorter on this side. But once you sew all four sides, you would have to take one of them apart. Okay, so that's why it's good to check before you sew up this last side. Now this is step number 21, where we do rolled handles. So I've already marked my markings where I want those handles to be rolled. Okay, so this is the right side of my panel, and this is the right side of my webbing right here. I've put my markings, so I want to match up my center. So I want it to be on there like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put this like this. Make sure it's really lined up. As you can see, this is up, and I'm looking at the folded edge, okay, on the right side. So when this is folded down, you should see the raw edge on this side, okay? So it should be like that. So that's correct. So now I'm going to put this aside and grab the next one. Okay, so now both of our side panels are complete. So now I'm going to put these aside and go on to our next step, which is our side panels, our zipper, and side gusset. Okay, so now we're on step number 22, which is our D-rings. Now I'm going to use webbing for my D-rings. Okay, so I cut out a piece that is the length of the D-ring pattern piece. But if you are using your fabric for the D-rings, what you're going to do is you're going to take your fabric piece, fold each side into the center, and then you are going to take it and cut it in two from there. Okay, but like I said, I am going to be using a webbing for the D-ring. So I want to take my webbing, cut it into two, burn the edges of both of the webbings, and then take my D-rings and clip them. Now again, if you're using fabric, you're going to want the folded edges to be in the inside so that you cannot see them. And so now I want to go and base this at the bottom. Now my D-rings are finished, and I'm going to put them aside until we need them again. So now we're working on the zipper gusset. We have to have 2 pieces of PC, which is out of utility fabric, and then our zipper with 2 zipper pulls on it going in opposite directions. Okay, and when they meet in the center, they shouldn't have any bubbling on one side or the other, but be evenly distributed on there. So now I've clipped my zipper to my gusset, right sides together. Now I want to sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now I want to finish off this seam because, as you can see, it's really fraying really bad. So you can either use a zigzag stitch on your domestic machine, or you can use a serger. And since I have a serger, that's the one I am going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up and then get that ready to be serged. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to finish off this edge, but I do not want to cut my zipper tape. So if you will notice here on my serger, and this is Brother 1034DX, there's a groove right here. Everything on this side of that groove is going to be finished. Everything on the right side of the groove will be cut. And then on the back side, you will be able to see that it is completely finished off. Okay, so now I want to do the same thing to the other side. Now you're going to take your zipper right side up. Okay, you're going to take your gusset right side down. And you can either pin it or clip it. I'm just going to put a pin right there. Now I'm going to take my serger and I'm going to serge along this edge. Okay, so now my edges are completely serged. Okay, but now I want to sew a line down here using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to use my sewing machine for that. I want to move over my needle. Okay, so now that is stitched on there. So now I want to open this out and finger press it and then top stitch it. So now I want to move my needle back to the center. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to cut off the zipper portion that is overhanging. Okay. On both sides, making sure that my zipper pulls are back onto the fabric. Okay. So now I want to get my D-rings, and I want to put my D-rings right in the center right there. Okay, so there's one D-ring. So now I want to baste this D-ring onto this gusset. Just like that. Now I want to do the same thing to this one over here. Okay, so now my gusset is all ready, and I will put this aside and then go on to the next step. Okay, so now I have both of my side panels, okay, and I have my base. Now I want to put them right sides together, so let me put one side panel. Now she adds a note, because if you are using a directional fabric here, you will want to make sure, first of all, that your base is in the center. So when you're looking at both of these sides, it's going to be on there like this. So you want to make sure that these two, the directions are going in the correct way. Now mine is black, so I don't have to worry about that. Now I want to sew both of these seams using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So now my two sides are attached to the base. Okay, now I want to take the zipper gusset and put it right sides together with our sides and our base. Okay. Then I want to sew across using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And before you go over the zipper portion, make sure that your D-ring is out of the way. We should have 4 unfinished edges. We have the 2 edges at both sides of the zipper gusset, and then we have the 2 edges that attach to our base. Now this is where all of our options come in as to how we will finish this seam. You can use a French seam. If you are wanting to use your domestic machine, you can use a zigzag stitch or an overcast stitch with an overcast foot. Now, if you're going to use binding, you want to trim down your seam and then add your binding. The way I'm going to go ahead and finish off this seam is by using a serger. It'll finish off the seam and cut down my seam allowance at the same time. And when I went over this zipper, I went really slow. Okay, so now all of my seams are completely finished. Now what I want to do is I want to top stitch all of these seams so that they lie flat. So let's start off with this one. I'm going to make sure that my seam is going away from the D-ring, so I want my top stitching to be on this side, okay? So you can see how I've got the seam going that way. So now I want to put it right there, and I want to move over my needle. So now I had to just start from the other side because my needle is already set to go that way. I want the seam allowance for my side gussets to be going away from the base. So here's my base and here's my side gusset. So I want it to go that way, like that. Okay, and here's my last one. How did I do that? Oh my goodness. Okay. I moved. I moved my to the right direction and then sewed on the wrong side. So let me do this again so that way I will catch this the way I'm supposed to. So again, it's got to go away from the base and then top stitch. Now I have my zipper gusset with my D-rings, and they are all completely finished and top stitched. My two sides, which are also completely finished and top stitched, and then my base. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to find my centers to everything. So I'm the center here first. Matching up my side gussets. I'll put a clip right there. A clip right there. So now I can find the center to my base. Okay. Okay, so now I want to grab one of my sides, and I want to do the same thing as well. I want to find my center. Okay, now I want to get the base center, and I want to put it together with my bottom center of my panel. Okay, and then I'm going to put a pin right there. And I'm going to continue to pin it all the way. Now you will notice that I'm putting the pins on my panel side and not my gusset side. That is because when we sew this, I'm going to sew it panel side up. Now just go all the way around. So now everything is pinned all the way around. Okay, so now I'm going to sew it panel side up. Okay, usually we sew these kind of things gusset side up, but she makes a suggestion telling us to start at the center bottom, which we are, and to sew it with the panel side up. So let me increase my stitch length. Now around these corners, just go really slow. You have a choice of clipping your gusset, like I did to that side over here. You can see how I clipped the gusset so that I could go around this corner. This one here, I'm going to try and see if I can go around it without clipping the gusset. I got a tiniest little tuck right there, so I'm going to put a clip right there so I know that I have to fix that. And it looks like I missed a section here. Oh yes, right here. I went off. Okay, so I have to fix this portion too. This utility fabric is really fraying really bad. But once we finish off these edges, it'll be okay. Fix this portion here too. When it is this tiniest little tuck like that, just take out the scissors and then wiggle it back and forth, and look how that tuck came out of there. And now all I have to do is just sew over it. So now I'm going to start again at the bottom, but this time gusset side up, then go all the way around. I have another little tuck right there. Okay, and we're coming up to that little area that we had a tuck right there. Okay, so that's fixed. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to finish off these edges so that they don't fray anymore. So I'm just going to finish them off with the serger. Now, if you're using a serger, you really want to make sure that you're not catching anything on under here. Okay, you want to make sure you're only getting the 2 layers. Okay, so now I've sewn all the way around and finished off all of those edges. So now my next step is to open this out, make sure it's right side up, get my other piece and put it right sides together, making sure that they are both going in the right direction. Clip the top, and this time I'm going to attach it using clips instead of pins, and I'm going to sew gusset side up. Okay, because you can sew either gusset side up or panel side up. Everyone has preferences. So I'm going to do both ways and then see how it comes out. Okay, so now I've clipped it going all the way around, so now I'm going to sew it using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now I'm going to sew it gusset side up. The other way I sewed panel side up. So now I'm going to sew it going the opposite way, and so I can see which one is easiest. Okay, I'm stopping there because it's becoming really hard not to have any tucks. And although I didn't get any, right there I got a slight tiny one. Okay, so now the reason why I flipped it around is because I have excess fabric on my gusset side. So I'm going to sew it with the panel side up and let the feed dogs work with me. What the feed dogs are the bottom teeth of the machine, and what it does is it grabs the bottom layer and it feeds it back. Now it's easier to control the fabric on top. Okay, so I want to put my smaller fabric on top, my larger fabric on the bottom, and let the feed dogs move that fabric to the back and ease them into each other. Okay, so now I've gone all the way around, and now I've got my serger out again. And now I want to serge all the way around and finish off these edges. And again, I'm going to sew panel side up. Okay, so now I'm going to do this section right here because I missed it. Okay, everything looks really good. And now I just have to fill it with something.